All right, looks like we are up in, let's see here. All right, we're up and running. So let's get into this. Good morning, Ryan House on the Business Guides. And today, for the small business update, we're going to take a look at the Intuit QuickBooks Small Business Index. I ran across this on CNBC yesterday, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I guess it's been around for a minute, but I've been looking consistently for ways to have information, to normalize some data real time ish for my clients. I deal with mostly small businesses, and for them to be able to have a better idea what's going on just at a macro level within the industry and within their area. So let's take a look at this thing. So you can find this at quickbooks.intuit.com, our small business data / index. Long story short is just Google it, you'll get there. I'll throw a link in the description once this is complete. So what this is, published at the beginning of every month. The Intuit QuickBooks Small Business Index is a collaboration between Intuit QuickBooks and an international team of economists led by Professor, can't say his name, I'm going to mess it up. The Arnold C. Harberger Professor of Economics at the University of Chicago. And they have a lot of filters in different areas in it. I was checking out yesterday on my Twitch stream. So there's a lot of good stuff. Thought I'd bring it over to YouTube. It's useful. So small business employment and job vacancy growth by region. And you can see the different breakouts that they have here. So again, and this is, to make sure you get there, this is the monthly employment growth rates and levels for small businesses with 1 to 9 employees. And I thought that was pretty interesting that they're pulling data from their books on those smaller businesses, which 1 to 9, that size of small business is roughly, I think it's 10 or 12 million jobs exist within this country at that level, those type of small businesses. Sorry, it is early. Need a little coffee to get through this. So, showing number of people, and again, you'll see here, you can read through this yourself, but it's pretty interesting. So this is month over month. So as you can see here, we've got over in the far west, obviously it's darker, the closer to maroon and deeper crimson, the worse it is. And then up here in the northeast, see, okay, there's been a net in all of the northeast region, New England, 600 jobs were added in that size. Then we come over here, let's say my area in the Great Lakes where I live, we lost almost 2,000 jobs in February. As you make it over here in the far west, which again, the population's a bit higher over there, you got, over 7,000 jobs lost month to month. So we're not going to worry about Canada. Let's go back to January. Actually, let's go back to November and just walk our way forward so we can see how the changes go. So we got, let's see here, U.S. November 2023. We're losing jobs here again. 1.1, they're basically a little over 1,000 lost in New England. Lost 2,500 jobs in the Great Lakes region in November. And then, again, continue with 7,000 gone. Remember, and this makes sense, we've been losing a lot of tech jobs. So you can see where that's been happening. Now let's move forward. If you remember November, to go back to this, I think that's an interesting piece. You go back to November, everyone was worried that the doom and gloom was coming, that consumer wasn't going to be there. So there's a lot of businesses that were cutting staff because they didn't think the consumer was going to show up in the holidays. But what actually happened was we ran up our bills. We ran up our credit card bills. We spent money we didn't have because we wanted the holidays to be great. And that's where we're at right now. So when you go through this, you'll see Great Lakes added 7,000 jobs during this time frame. Same in the Plains, lots of stuff. Here in the Mid East, not so much. I don't think the data came through, to be honest. I think 0.0 isn't a realistic number. Then we get into January 2024. Right, so we're not worried about Canada. If you're Canadian, by all means, feel free to look at the data, and you can see jobs continue to be added here in Michigan. They're not. This one doesn't seem to have a click for some reason, pop out. So let's say this is a, I don't know, maybe 0.1% increase. And then we get to February, which is last month. So 0.1% is about 2,000. So we added 2,000 jobs in my area last month or 2 months ago, and then we just gave back about 2,000 jobs last month. So you can see the data as it's going there. Let's see what get the data does for me here. Oh, look at that. I was wondering if I could get it in a CV or not. CSV file. Let's see. Let's get to pop up. Come on, there we go. Okay, so and the thing is, you can download it if you want to spend some time with that. Grab that data so you can see it over time, which is I think is something I'm going to do with my clients. Is I'm going to go and get that set up for them just so they can be aware. All right, so the next piece we got is small business employment and job vacancies over time. So this is U.S. employment growth. What happened here? What happened in 2020? Huh. All right, so then you can see we had some growth going on. And now let's get into this area here. We've pretty much been, if you notice, we've been hugging the negative side of this more than anything. And we had this uptick in job hiring that was in August 23, which again makes sense. So let's take a look. That's the total U.S. Now I want to look, and you can break down by grade, and then that's total growth. Let's look at total employment. One of this huge pop up to 13.2 million, and now we've been losing jobs. And a lot of these, as they've been calling it, this has been a white collar recession as far as the jobs. They've been a lot of the, office jobs have been going away because in the services, construction, the trades, there's just not enough people. They will pretty much take anybody at this point. So that breakdown where they have these jobs here, but that's interesting. So we were so starting here in 2017, let's just go with old Trumpster there getting in right here. He gets credit starting January right here in 17 all the way up until he was done right there. So 12.6 million. And he gets credit for here. So all in all, Trump added 200,000 jobs during his time, including this monstrosity that we had to go through here. Since then, where Joe gets credit, 12.6 to, there's been 400,000 jobs added. Okay, in total U.S. employment. But I think this is just interesting to take a look at this. What's more so is you can break this down in this area here. I really couldn't care less who gets credit, by the way, for the jobs. It's all its own thing. So Great Lakes. So here's employment growth. You see this is kind of all the place, but if we were to where it hits the most lines, pop, right about here. Consistently, we've been adding about 0.2% year on year as far as jobs in the Great Lakes. However, you can see we had this dramatic dip down starting here, February of 2022, October, came back up. And we're back down to levels of losing jobs like we're seeing in 18. And if you remember in 18, there was definitely a little downturn that happened that rolled into 2019. And if we hadn't had the COVID, we would have been in line for another round of recessions kicking up in 2019. We were heading that direction. But let's look at, again, we looked at growth, total employment. Again, just look at those numbers. Coming out of basically October 2022, 1.9 million. That is, again, I really only like to look about in 19. I don't really care for much 2020. It's 2020 through 2022 really skews the data set. It's just not that great. But you can see here from in the Great Lakes region, again, in my area, we're at 1.885, so 1.9. We are now currently at 1.95. So, 60,000 additional jobs. All right, so the next piece they got here is small business employment and job vacancy growth by sector. So this right here in particular, I definitely like to be able to go through this, and I definitely be looking to pull this data from my clients, broken down by these 12 different sectors within the economy. So you can see we have been in a negative growth rate. The higher interest rates that the Fed has had have definitely had an effect, and it's had the greatest effect at, well, not the greatest, but it's had a very substantial effect on those businesses that require credit. Right, a lot of businesses, they are asset rich and cash flow poor, which means they need to take out loans for a lot of their work. And you see this a lot in the transportation, in the agricultural area, but also this is seasonal as well too. So, all right, let's go back in time here to look at. Like I said, I like to go back to November. Let's go to October, and then we'll work our way up through October. Again, Canada, you can look at your own stuff. So in the information world, was getting decimated. Transports, utilities, manufacturing is down in October. However, we got a little bit in that area. As we move up to November, wholesale trade, agriculture gave some back and continued to see job losses in information, utilities, transport. It's leisure and hospitality. Yep. December, let's see if we see a bump here. Yep. And that shows on the previous data that we had. Remember when we looked at that first one where they talked about the job growth? This would make sense. And then where they got it was in wholesale trade, finance and real estate, hired some teachers, and health services as well, professional, agricultural, but transport and warehousing continuing to take a hit. This is one of those bigger concerns that always comes out when you have a hit and you're losing people out of transportation and warehousing. That ultimately is going to start showing up in higher PPI, your producer price index, because the cost of shipping goes up. Cost of everything starts going up if you do not have as much either place to store it and transportation services. Same thing there. So let's get to January. Still losing. Again, it's only 300 jobs here, but again, every one of those, if half of those are truckers, that's a thing. Information, agricultural, leisure. And you can go through this thing, see where it's at. Again, wholesale trade. Let's get the last one for February just for comparison's sake. Everybody was losing jobs. And again here, transport and warehousing, 3,600 jobs. So this has been just in transportation and warehousing, you see consistently since October, they've just been trimming more and more of those positions, which is definitely going to show up in our PPI, the producer price index, which came out yesterday. It was yesterday when the PPI came out, which is then going to translate into future prices. Going to hit us as consumers, usually about 6 to 9 months later. So, with all that being said, for my clients, when I'm looking at all of this and I'm seeing where the hits are, where jobs are increasing, where they're going away, what the employment looks like in different areas, I am using this as a more of a macro themes. So we can talk about the health of their industry, but also in the industries that are supporting them. That's where I think I'm going to be able to get the most value out of them, specifically because I can look at our specific region. So if I have some clients that they deal with trucking, I have that's going to be an issue for them. Where as far as the number of people in warehousing and things like that are going down. But the other spot though, which is going to be good for them, if their competitors are shedding drivers because they don't have as much work, that's going to be an opportunity for us to basically to advertise about bringing in some talent in the driving pool. So just things to keep in mind there. Check this out. I think this is pretty cool that they're doing this. It's the same thing they have with Salesforce, where ADP's got their numbers that they put out to try to help balance between what the government's telling us, because again, every single government release has been put through the political lens before it's been put out there, so you always got to take it with a grain of salt. But in this case, this is just another way for us to look at and see how hiring's going, how growth, stability, and then you look by region as a way to compare and contrast from what the government's telling us. So with this, check this out. It's on, again, quickbooks.intuit.com. I'm going to drop the link in the description after the stream ends. Actually, let's test this out. In theory, I should be able to do this. Let's see if I can do this. Send. There you go. Dropped it in the chat for you guys right there. So it's in the chat, but I'll also put it in the description later. So with that, I this is something new we're doing here, but I plan on a consistent basis coming out here and just dropping a morning note in for everybody, kind of what I'm looking at for my clients in preparation for the day. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and